2 years ago, I released a video called Healing My High Myopia. Since then, people have asked for an update. This video is that update. I'm going to go into the 9 pillars of high myopia management, my current daily protocol, what has changed over the past 2 years, what hasn't changed, and give you an update on what to expect from this channel. I'm going to start with the boring part. My prescription, my visual acuity, my axial length is pretty much unchanged over the 2 years. If anything, is just a tiny bit worse. But the good news is that rate of worsening drastically improved so much that most ophthalmologists now say I'm fully stable. I've implemented, in my opinion, the 80-20 most important daily routines for my eye health, and I've lived a full life. I've kept my other business running steadily. I've traveled the world. I've had adventures, and life is good. But then I got to thinking, still, the biggest risk factor in my life is serious vision loss as a result of my high myopia and the complications associated with that, such as retinal detachment, such as macular degeneration, etc. And that brought me back to this channel. And in addition to that, while I love my other business, my marketing agency, putting energy into helping people literally see better would be a really meaningful goal of mine. So I'm back here putting energy into this channel. Over the past 2 years, I've also seen several more doctors. I've seen ophthalmologists in Canada, in the United States, and in Colombia. I've compared and contrasted different opinions, different philosophies, and I've identified a real problem. Ophthalmology is not set up to deal with adult high myopia. The ophthalmologists are confused by it. Some of them want to pass me off because they don't know what to do. I had one ophthalmologist, when I asked him, hey, why did my myopia worsen in adulthood? He just said there's some mysteries in medicine that we don't know. I've worked with naturopathic vision therapists, where at first I thought that was the answer, but then over a year or two of working with them, I caught them contradicting themselves. And as a man of logic and science, I lose respect for a modality when I see that modality and that practitioner self-contradicting what they said last year's appointment. I'm just aware that there's really a lack of resources, a lack of clarity in dealing with high myopia. And you have the mainstream Western ophthalmology, which is not that set up to deal with it. 99% of their myopia focus is on children, because for most cases, myopia onsets in childhood. And that also means that all the research dollars, all the peer-reviewed studies are based on children, not adults. So adult myopia is largely unserved. And then we have vision therapy, which is kind of an in-between. It is a licensed, accredited profession in the US and Canada, but ophthalmologists have told me that it's a complete waste of time and money. Then we have even further naturopathic remedies. We have YouTube channels talking about active focused, myopia reversal, natural healing, etc. All 3 camps, for example, talk about how important outdoor time is, how harmful screen time is. So it's a complex world to navigate, and it's so important because what could be more important than your eyesight, and what could be more scary than losing your eyesight? With all that in mind, here we are. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to show you my basic daily protocol, which is likely going to improve and become more robust as I start putting more energy into this. And I'm also going to talk about what I've identified as the 9 pillars of adult myopia management. And these are the 9 pillars that I'm going to be paying more attention to, because my goal is to maximize my eyesight. I have a goal of living to see the 22nd century, which is year 2100, which would put me at 109 years old. Given longevity breakthroughs, I think that's highly doable, if not slightly conservative. But the key is that my eyes need to still work, and I need to still be able to see. So this is my current protocol. Like I said, this is the basics. This is the 80-20. This is what I've been able to keep up religiously. 45 minutes of outdoor walking time per day. In addition to eyesight, this has so many other benefits. And there have been studies, a lot of them out of Asia, that has shown in a peer-reviewed environment that outdoor time slows myopia progression in children. And pretty much everyone I talk to agrees that outdoor time, focusing on distances, is healthy for your eyesight. It counteracts close screen time. And as a bonus, I also do some of this walking wearing no contacts, no glasses, just bare-eyed, visually impaired walking, which I find is nice. And at roughly -9, -7, it's a bit blurry, but so be it. I have a morning eye routine that involves a warm compress, an eyelid cleanser, and the Aruna light. So the warm compress and eyelid cleanser are easy, extremely effective remedies to prevent dry eye. Now, dry eye is not directly related to myopia. However, rubbing your eyes because they're itchy increases retinal detachment risk. And as a high myope, my retinal detachment risk is already elevated. So indirectly, it does factor in, and it just makes your eyes feel better. The Aruna light is a device I'm going to talk more about on the next tab, developed by ophthalmologists out of Canada. It's gentle red light therapy that reduces your chance of developing macular degeneration, which is another elevated risk factor for high myopes. Simply the 20-20-20 rule. I think we all know this: 20 minutes of screen time followed by 20 seconds of focusing on something 20 meters away. So get up, look out the window, etc. I try to limit my screen time to no more than 6 hours per day. I run an online business. I do have to have some screen time, but I'm not spending 10 hours a day on screens. 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a little bit my own opinion. I've found that when my eyes are tired, the eye strain associated with using screens in day-to-day life is much higher. So by getting good sleeps, I don't have tired eyes, and the eye strain caused day-to-day is much lower. I track my visual acuity and axial length in a spreadsheet. So visual acuity, that's when you look at the chart, read the letters, and you get 20/20, 20/40, 20/80, etc. And then axial length is measured generally in millimeters, and you need to use a laser device at an ophthalmology office to measure that. And then I've also gathered opinions from different ophthalmologists and optometrists around the world: Canada, British Columbia, which is where I'm from, Florida out of the USA, and then Medellin in Colombia, South America, which has become a bit of a hotspot for medical tourism. And the last piece is supplements. The main two are lutein and zeaxanthin. This, if you have age-related macular degeneration, slows it down. Hasn't technically been proven to prevent it, but in my mind, if it's going to slow it down, I think it makes sense to use it to prevent it. And there's not really any harmful side effects of supplementing with these. The most common compound is the AirEdz2, which includes some vitamins, I think vitamin C, zinc, copper. But the main thing is you're getting lutein and zeaxanthin on a regular basis. And again, this is not addressing the root cause of myopia, but it is strengthening the eye and reducing the chance of macular degeneration, in my opinion. There's a lot more I could go into here. I could talk about the different opinions from ophthalmologists, compare and contrast them, and all of that's content for future videos. What I want to share in this video is what are, in my opinion, the 9 most important pillars of myopia management. I'm going to flag them. I'm going to give you resources to read more about them. And this is also a roadmap for myself, in that my plan is to make dedicated YouTube videos about each one of these pillars and talk about what I have uncovered as being the most effective methods within each. All right, so let's jump into the pillars of myopia. Number 1, supplement. I just talked about this. So AirEdz2, here's a reference. By the way, I'm gonna link this in the video description so you can check this out. AirEdz2 has been heavily researched, helps with age-related macular degeneration. Now, technically, I'm making my own stretch here and taking this preventatively. I see no downside and only upside. There's a lot more you can read about that here. And supplements is a big one. There are more nuanced supplements than just this, which again is the lutein, zeaxanthin with vitamins. There's a lot more you can take, and I want to go a lot deeper into this, but this is the most researched, most proven. This is a great place to start. So number 2 is lifestyle. Now, a lot of lifestyle optimization comes down to the balance between outdoor time and screen time. Now, I've seen thought leaders recommend a ratio as extreme as for every 1 hour of screen time per day, you should be getting 2 hours of outdoor time. Now, this is generally aimed at children whose eyes are developing. But wow, that's an extreme ratio. I mean, for most people, they probably get 30 minutes of outdoor time for 8 hours of screen time. Now, I don't hit this ratio, but I usually get about 1 hour a day of outdoor time and about 6 hours a day of screen time. So I have room to improve there, but that's still a lot better than the average person. The 20-20-20 rule is something I'm very good about. Every 20 minutes, I take a break, rest my eyes, walk around, go to my balcony, etc. Good overall health. This is more important than people think. First of all, diabetes is a huge risk factor in a number of optical eye issues. So stay in good shape, keep a healthy BMI, diet, exercise, sleep, etc. A reference for all of this here is a study out of Shanghai, and this ties back to the Time Outdoors. So Time Outdoors in Reducing Myopia, school-based cluster randomized trial with objective monitoring of outdoor time and light intensity. Now, you'll notice a pattern here. A lot of cutting-edge myopia studies come out of Asia. That's because the prevalence of myopia is highest in Asia. That's a good thing to keep in mind. Pillar 3, we have devices. Now, currently the only device I'm using is a pair of red light therapy glasses. They're called Aruna Light, and I mentioned these earlier. These are developed by ophthalmologists out of Canada. It's an approved medical device, and I've linked their website here. I'm not affiliated with this company, by the way. This is just the one I've chosen to use. And my understanding, they have links to their studies and whatnot, but it provides low-level red light to various regions of your eye. It enhances and encourages blood flow, and ultimately, again, lowers the risk of macular degeneration, which is one of the leading scary risk factors for people with high myopia. So I put on these glasses. It's 3 minutes. You close your eyes. It kind of feels good. I do it every morning. It's an easy routine. The next pillar is using medical procedures for children, quote unquote, off label. So there's been hundreds of millions of dollars poured into researching myopia prevention for children. We have low dose atropine drops, myopia control lenses or contacts. Now, there haven't been that many studies about using these procedures for adults, but logic would indicate that if they work for children, they're probably going to have some level of effectiveness for adults that are experiencing worsening myopia as well. Now, here's a link to the low dose atropine study, and this is simply low dose atropine for myopia control. Pillar number 7 is general eye health. So I talked about this earlier, but again, eliminating dry eye. The reason this is important is because rubbing your eyes increases retinal detachment risk. So retinal detachment is when the retina essentially detaches from the orbital socket and fluid fills up the space of the detachment. And when you rub your eyes, you actually introduce significant pressure to the eye. And if you have myopia, your eye is already weaker and more susceptible to having a retinal detachment. So you really don't want to rub your eyes. And the number one reason people rub their eyes because they're itchy. So you eliminate dry eye, you lower your eye itchiness, you lower the urge to rub them, and you lower this risk of retinal detachment. So I do a warm compress in the morning and night. Essentially what a warm compress does is it warms up the oils in your eye glands, and the oils is what causes the tear film to not evaporate. And oftentimes people with dry eye, the oils is clogged or it's not warm enough and it's solidified. Melting it improves the quality of the tear film, and it just simple, feels good, free, easy treatment. I sometimes use moisturizing drops when needed, not all the time. I don't want to rely on them too deeply, but if my eyes feel dry, I'll use them. Eyelid cleanliness is also more important than you think. There's common mites and bacteria that live around your eyelids, and if those become overgrown, it causes irritation, swelling on the eyelids, which again causes itchiness, and we don't want that. So I use an eyelid cleanser morning and night. And there's a link here which talks about how rubbing your eyes is indeed a more dangerous habit than people think for your eye health. You can see here it's risk of retinal detachment and worsening of glaucoma. Glaucoma is also at an elevated risk for people who have high myopia. The next piece is tracking your own myopia progression. This is something that's not on people's radar, and it should be. You really have to be the CEO of your own health, which includes your eye health. So you can buy a Snellen chart, which is the chart with the numbers. You can track your own visual acuity in a spreadsheet. You can get your axial length measured regularly, track that in a spreadsheet. You'll have to generally see an ophthalmologist for that, but you can ask to have your axial length measured. This allows you to present this history to new ophthalmologists. Opening the reference here, this is talking about the correlation between axial length and adult onset myopia. And in my opinion, axial length is the leading KPI, the leading metric, the leading biomarker that needs to be tracked, because the axial length measures the elongation of the eye, and that is what increases your risk chance for many sight-threatening conditions. I forgot to go over number 5 here, which is finding the right optometrist and ophthalmologist. This is incredibly important as well. You need to find one that specializes in myopia management, preferably in adults, and a lot don't. So that ties into number 8, where you need to have your own medical documents to give to that new ophthalmologist when you find one that you like. And unfortunately, by default, a lot of ophthalmologists don't even send you your own medical records. I've had to go out of my way to ask for those. And this is something that you need to do. You need to gain ownership and autonomy over your own medical records and make the conscious choice about which doctor you're going to work with. And then finally, number 9 is staying up to date with the latest myopia advancements. Constantly, we have new studies, new treatments, new devices coming out. And we want to pay attention to China and slash Asia in general here. China in particular has sky high rates of myopia. They have smart researchers, smart scientists, they have money. So I expect as many or more myopia breakthroughs are going to be coming out of China than the US. And this is a cool reference here. This talks about the pipeline of drugs, therapies, treatments currently under development, under testing for myopia management. It's sort of a meta-analysis of many different things. And this is the Myopia Pipeline 2026. So you can check this out as well. It's a great summary. I suspect I'm not the only one that's going to be putting more energy into myopia. Myopia, based on my research, of all health conditions in the world, is on track to be the highest. Currently, global prevalence of myopia is anywhere from 30 to 40%. It's projected that by 2050, global prevalence is 50%. And in some Asian countries, the prevalence is going to be as high as 80 to 90%. So 1 out of every 2 people in the world are on track to be affected by myopia. As our world rapidly transitions into artificial intelligence, more screen time, more internet usage, that directly increases myopia. Preserving human vision is more important than ever if you look at the way the world is moving. That's it for this video. Expect to see and hear more from me. Let me know in the comments what you want to learn about, and until next time, I'll see you later.